base, get one early or don't get one at all. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. Today is Monday, February 13th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And if you've listened to any of our podcasts this offseason, you probably have an idea of how Scott feels. But just in case you haven't, how do you feel, Scott, about this?
I mean, you basically said it. Get in early or not at all. That's my approach to third base this year. It is very deep at the top, but that top is gone basically by the end of round 2. So you got Jose Ramirez, a consensus number 1 overall pick, top 5 pick. And then after him at the position, you have Rafael Devers, Manny Machado, Austin Riley, Bobby Witt, who are all going to go in round 2. I mean, if you're drafting with me, I might pull some of them into round 1 even. And then there's Nolan Arenado, who I'm going to pull into round 2 just because I don't like what comes afterward, which is a cliff dive, basically, to the point that I don't know that I'm going to want to invest in anybody. You know, there are 3 third basemen that I still feel are good enough, or at least have the potential to be good enough, that I would draft them maybe in the round 6 to 10 range, and that is Alex Bregman, Gunnar Henderson, who's completely unproven as a rookie this year, and Max Muncy, who hit 199 last year, but finished strong, and of course he has a good track record. So those 3, Bregman, and Muncy, I could draft them in the round 6 to 10 range and would be fine with it. But it's 3 chances, 3 potential bites at the apple at a position where a lot of people are going to be hurting in that range. So it's very likely others reach for them ahead of me, and I just don't want to take that chance. I just want to fill third base in round 2, again, if not in late round 1, and then not have to think about it anymore. Otherwise, probably waiting till very late and just taking an upside player like Jordan Walker, who we don't even know is going to make the Cardinals opening day roster, but consensus top 5 prospect and has a ton of upside.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talk about when we say target one early in the first or second round or target one late. Someone like Jordan Walker, who has big upside, but we have questions about playing time early on in his career. There's Brett Beatty with the Mets, Josh Young with the Rangers. There's prospects with some potential, but obviously not very proven. Scott, all things considered, who is the third baseman that you want most? I assume it's one of those like late first or early second round guys.
Yeah, I'm going to say Rafael Devers. I prefer him to Machado. I prefer him to Riley. I think he's clearly the best source of batting average of the 3 of them. And I feel like the way the environment's going to change this year with new rules to encourage stolen bases, I feel like batting average is more critical to fill early than stolen bases are. You know, Manny Machado probably going to have more steals than Devers, but I'll take Devers instead. And that is the main player when I was saying I might pull one of those third basemen late into round 1 just to ensure I get them, particularly if you're talking like a 15-team context. Devers at pick 11, maybe you think, oh, Freddie Freeman deserves to go in that place instead. But Freddie Freeman plays the deepest position in fantasy, arguably, first base. If I pass up Devers there, and then he, Machado, and Riley all go, maybe even Witt goes before it gets back to me, I'm going to feel really stupid. So I'd rather not play games. I don't think there's that much separating Devers and Freeman in terms of potential statistical output. So I would go ahead and take Devers at the end of round 1 and see what gets back to me in round 2.
Yeah, I'd like to get one of those guys as well, Scott. I think I prefer Manny Machado by a hair. He's obviously very proven, a few more steals, as you mentioned. Really awesome, top 4 or top 5 in that Padres lineup too. So I think the counting stats should be better for Machado than they are for Devers. Red Sox lost a few pieces this offseason as well. It's close, but I want one of those two. And if just kind of works out because of where I'm drafting that I miss out on all of them, then I'm probably going to try and get Gunnar Henderson in those middle rounds if I can. Who is a bust, Scott, someone that you are looking to avoid at this position?
So there's so much badness at this position that it's hard to say anybody's a bust. I do think Bobby Witt's kind of a reach relative to those other guys. And in some early drafts, he was going in round 1, which was just ridiculous. But I see Bobby Witt as more of a late second rounder. A couple players being drafted more around 200 that I don't like, at least if you remove all context, I don't like them. One is Josh Rojas of the Diamondbacks, who's only being drafted that high because he stole 23 bases last year, basically brings nothing else to the table. They have alternatives for third base, so I don't know that he's going to play as much, and I'm not confident he's even going to give you as many as 23 steals again. And then the other one is Brandon Drury, who's now with the Angels. And if you look at his splits, Cincinnati versus everywhere else last year, completely different player. But because he's barely being drafted inside the top 200 and he was a top 70 performer last year, I don't even think Drury's that bad to draft. He's with the Angels now, who also play in a good hitter's park. So it's hard for me to really drive home the point that Drury's a bust.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, just going so late in drafts, it's, what's the risk at that point for Brandon Drury? For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.